Welcome to our Restoring America channel, where we will show you a common person's approach to do-it-yourself repairs. Today we are working on a 2003 Ford F250 Super Duty XLT 7.3-liter turbo diesel crew cab. We will be identifying and removing the intermediate brake line. Please see my title and description since the make, model, year, style, and bed size can vary on these trucks, and that will affect the size of your line. The truck is supported on jack stands. The fuel tank and rear driver's side wheel is removed. Check out my other videos for details. When I remove brake lines, I try to clean off the fittings of dirt and rust and then apply penetrating oil. The intermediate brake line is the longest brake line in this truck. It runs from this location at the rear of the truck and then all the way forward along the inside of the frame past the fuel pump located under the driver's area to another line that then goes to the ABS. I used a flare nut wrench, but I ended up rounding out the fitting anyway, so I will have to cut the line near the fitting. Based on my past luck with brake lines, I need to remove this as one piece to match it up with its replacement. The line is rusted and ruptured, so I am not surprised that this nut rounded out. When I am working around the vehicle, I try to remember to wear the appropriate hand and eye protection as well as use appropriate receptacles for the collection of fluids. I have some .3 brake fluid at the ready to make sure that the master cylinder doesn't go dry. Again, this intermediate brake line runs from this mounted flexible connection towards the front of the truck 12.5 feet away. It is mounted in these black plastic clips that was not accessible when the fuel tank was here. I will be careful not to mix up the brake line with the two fuel lines. You can remove the brake line in this location without having to remove the fuel lines, as the brake line is mounted in front of them. This truck is a 4x4, so you can see the brake line and fuel lines running past the transfer case housing as they continue along the frame towards the front of the truck. I am trying to get you a better view of the brake line and fuel lines as they go past the transfer case housing. You may also see another clip in this location. Fortunately, I believe I can reach it without removing anything, so I can detach the brake line from it. Again, I am trying to keep this brake line intact so I can match it up with a new one. The line is weak and rusty, so I really have to take my time with it while I lay under the truck during this beautiful southern Mississippi summer. I thought it would be important to give you some detail on the clips holding the brake line. It appears the line will come out easily by separating the tabs that the line is sitting between. You may be dealing with, of course, far less rust, and the line may pull out much easier. By pulling the tabs apart and then pulling the brake line out of the clip, I was able to make some progress. I really want to keep this line together and in its correct shape as much as possible, so I am working slowly and cautiously. I also wanted to mention I noticed clips near the electrical harness, so it looks like the electrical harness was once attached to the brake line, so be aware of that. Anyway, the less rusty and sturdier portion of the line removes much easier, as you can see. The brake line is now free of the clips up to the fuel pump and is attached to the bottom of the fuel pump by a small C-shaped clip. You may notice the black plastic sleeve around the brake line here. Just a reminder, from this location we are looking from the front to the back of the truck, and that is the transfer case and the frame that the brake line and fuel lines go in between. And here's another shot of the brake line mounted under the fuel pump, but as you can see, the brake line runs under the high pressure fuel line, which is blue, and then into a white clip, and finally into another brake line. The line that it is connected to at the fitting leads to the ABS. So just to be sure, I will point out the brake line. Again, it is mounted under the fuel pump in a C-shaped ring. After that, it goes behind the high pressure fuel line and connects to the white clip. Past that, it connects to another brake line that leads to the ABS. I have disconnected the line by cutting it near the fitting, as my attempts at loosening the fittings resulted in rounded nut heads. Unfortunately, there does not appear to be any way to remove the brake line in its entirety without disconnecting the fuel line. If interested, check out my video to see how I disconnected my batteries. My battery is disconnected and I drained my fuel bowl, although I do not have a video of that yet. I removed my fuel line first by releasing the safety clamp. I make sure I wear goggles and gloves when dealing with fuel. As you can see, I am pushing the clamp towards the fuel pump and lifting up the end at the same time. The next thing I will need is a quick disconnect tool. Please refer to my fuel tank removal video for this vehicle to see my assortment and discussion. I bought a cheap set and they worked out fine. Once I have the disconnect tool on the line, I will push the tool into the line and that will release a lock ring. I will then be able to pull the line off of the fuel pump. Now that the fuel line is disconnected, I should be able to get that brake line out. That worked, and now all I have to do is pull the line out from the back end. I wanted to quickly show you the room I had to remove the brake line after I disconnected the fuel line. I also wanted to point out that I cut the line at the fitting to the other line that leads to the ABS. As you can see, the intermediate brake line has been removed. Just a little spoiler alert, like I may have mentioned before, there was a reason I wanted to remove this brake line in one piece. Not only did I want to match it up with a new replacement that no local auto parts store or any online store could provide. I tried several places online and in town and everywhere. No one could give me a match. I bought complete sets for the entire truck that were over $200 and individual lines that were almost half of that just by themselves. Nothing worked, all too short. Returning everything was a nightmare. Since I have a complete line though, I will now attempt to make my own intermediate brake line and watch for that video in the future. I wanted to say thank you. Please subscribe, like, and comment, and take care now.